everyone, a warm welcome to Nerdy Optometrist, a podcast channel for all things optometry. And this is your host, Ukti Vora. Are you all bombarded with information of how important it is to incorporate technology into your practice? And how important it is to provide more specialty care to enhance the scope of your practice? Well, I'm sure we're all ready to start using them, but it can be overwhelming. Well, don't worry, I've got you covered. I would like to highlight Eileen's all in one app that leverages technology to instantly enhance the skill set of eye care practitioners by enabling them to do more tests in less time through automation. The app incorporates comprehensive electronic health record system so that you have all your information in one place, along with features for myopia management, digital tests, analysis, and treatment for binocular vision. Ailey is the clinical assistant you've always been looking out for. Irrespective of the level of practice you are in, it has simple steps and tools that will help you easily incorporate it without use of heavy equipments or additional training. It is something that will help you streamline your current process and procedures. I highly recommend all of you to visit eiley.com and sign up for your free trial. Let's start future proofing your practice today. A huge shout out and thank you to Eiley for supporting this podcast episode. With that, let's get started. Oprah Winfrey once said, "Passion is energy. Feel the power that comes from what excites you." I'm really excited to have our guest for today, Carissa Dunphy. Many of you might know her through Optician Now. That's her who was, the whole idea conceptualizer behind this entire amazing social media channel. And to know a little bit more about her, she's an ABO certified optician who has been working in the optical industry since 2008. She works in a thriving 5-doctor private optometry practice just outside of Seattle in the tech arena of Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and many others. Prior to working in optometry, Carissa was a certified computer applications specialist, building websites for small businesses and provisioned servers. She also hosted a live video podcast interviewing prominent entrepreneurs. After seeing a need for a static resource for opticians, Carissa combined her knowledge and desire to help people with her love for opticianry and technology and founded Optician Now. With that, a warm welcome and thank you so much for doing this with us. We're really excited to have you.
Thanks very much for having me. I got excited when you invited me on the show because I like the nerdy aspect of your podcast. I feel like I fit right in. I'm very comfortable.
Perfect. And that's something which is I think across the board. Anyway, anytime I invite someone, they can all relate to it. They're like, yeah, I think we are nerdy in some sense. And I'm like, perfect. That's what the idea was. Awesome. So for all my nerdy guests and all my nerdy listeners, we would like to know, how did you bump into opticianry to even begin with?
I feel like everybody bumped into the industry. It's rare that somebody really had a plan to do it. I started out in the industry. I needed a job, and the place that was hiring was the front desk at an optometrist office.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can do that. I've done front desk before. And so I got a job there, and then that was part-time. So eventually I wanted full-time work, and my doctor at the time said, you need to fill those hours as a technician. That's the only way we can give you full-time work. So I learned the full scope of being an optometric technician.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, the management was like, you're going to get bored. We want to keep you. You need to learn how to do more. So I started sort of apprenticing under the opticians and the doctors and learning additional skills. And then eventually I just took my test for the ABO certification and passed, of course. And so then since then, I've just been a full-time optician. I haven't really helped out much. I feel like it's good to know because I can help out when needed, but I try to stick with opticianry. I feel I'm most valuable there.
Awesome. So for those who are not aware of how the system of eye care industry works in the United States, I actually want to break it down how we have different roles. One, which is an optometrist and ophthalmologist, which is across the countries. But United States, we do have a very defined role as an optician who takes care of what Carissa is going to walk us through, but mainly taking care of dispensing aspect of eyewear. And they are certification courses specifically designed for opticianry. So I think it's very interesting how we all have different roles. Sometimes in some countries we overlap each other, like in India, right? So an optometrist would do dispensing, they will also do eye exams. But if we
Mm-hmm.
define and divide and conquer with the eye care burden that we have globally, I think it would be a much better way to achieve the vision care for all. So talking about opticianry, and as I mentioned, right, we all have different perspective of what a day of an optician looks like. So I
Mm-hmm.
want you to walk us through your day. Like, how does your day look like? What all do you do?
Um, so first, I think learning the other aspects of the profession has helped me to become a better optician. I'm very much more well-rounded and I have the whole practice in mind rather than just my scope.
Mm-hmm.
But a typical day, most of the time, I'll try to do it chronologically.
Yeah.
Most of the day in the morning, we start out by checking in the work from the labs.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes this includes edging our own lenses in-house because we do that at my office.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of offices don't. So we'll check in all the work and then of course, notify the patients that their orders have come in, dispensing all the work, adjustments, repairs. I feel like Monday is like adjustment repair day. Everybody comes in from the weekend with their broken this or their screw has fallen out or their dog. There was a period in COVID where there were a lot of dog related
Yeah.
repairs. Throughout the whole day, we're constantly helping patients find glasses, discussing lens options, what would be best. We're in a high-tech area where I'm at, so we have a lot of occupational progressives
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of people don't sell them or the patient has never heard of them before, but that's like, the holy grail for their days. All day long, we're repairing and adjusting and dispensing. And one of my things where I feel very valuable is when we help patients to understand their insurance, how to
Mm-hmm.
use it best if they're wearing glasses and contacts, how to best use the dollars, or if they have two plans, or when it renews, or how it renews, or if there's any promotions going on, all of those sorts of things to just maximize their dollars and their benefits. So that's kind of like a typical day. You're always dropping things and juggling things and restarting things and going back and forth. We have no appointments for opticians in my office. I haven't ever worked somewhere that did.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be very comfortable dropping everything all day long and coming back to it later. I personally like it because if I don't have 15 things going on at once, then I'm bored. So like if it's a slow day, we're like, can someone go home? Because we can't handle the slowness. And that's how everyone kind of is at my office. We're all people that need busy work. So we like it. It's always a variety. It's never like redundant. And then right now we're starting to get into the busy season where November, December, everyone wants to use their insurance or use their dollars. And sometimes you're like, okay, I just have to stay 2 hours late to enter my orders because tomorrow's going to be just as crazy and I won't have time tomorrow. But it's a lot of juggling. So if you like multitasking and you like having many things going on all the time, it's great.
Awesome. So I do know you did mention of, how there is a role of clinical knowledge that helped you become a better optician. There has been assumptions like, oh, as an optician, it's a simple task. All you do is like give glasses. But how you explained, it's like checking, referring, reviewing, advising them what's best for in terms of
Mm-hmm.
their usage, plus making the most of their insurance benefits. How many times do you feel opticians or people who are practicing opticianry might undermine the power of what you can do in terms of offering to a patient and how you can change their life? Do you have any thoughts there?
Well, I know a lot of offices, let's say you're in a big corporation or something and you don't have um, the portfolio of lenses to choose from, for example, or the right family of lenses, or that family just doesn't have it. Because I know a lot of big corporate chains, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the variety. So just because you may work somewhere that you don't have a lens, I don't think an optician should limit their knowledge to the practice offerings. I think you should always be aware of what is on the market,
Mm-hmm.
um, because someone could walk in with that and want the same thing, and then you don't even know what it is.
Right.
It's not our market of lenses doesn't change so rapidly to where you would learn it and be out of date. Once you have a
Mm-hmm.
strong base of all the lenses, it's pretty much general knowledge at that point, and you should know of all the lenses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get fancy, your lab can help you to make something for the patient. If you don't have a lens that they can offer, there's always ways to get around those sorts of things. But you should always know everything that's on the market. And just because it's not in your office doesn't mean you shouldn't know of it. So go outside of your box and find some resources to get the knowledge, so you can truly help every patient or customer that has a need.
Absolutely. And also, we need to realize the power of internet and Google, that the
Mhm.
patient who are coming in would have Googled so many things. And if you don't know what they're talking about,
Yeah, and there's a
that
lot of
could be
continuing
embarrassing.
education courses that you can learn from. You don't have to take them and take the test at the end, but most of them are grants. And so they're provided by the manufacturers, the learning. And so they're paying to get this knowledge out there. So you should suck it up and learn from it, since it's most of the time free to take the course or to learn about it. You don't have to take the test, just, take the knowledge.
Yeah, that's actually a very good tip. Like, if there are free resources available, I think sometimes we are stuck with, oh, if I've completed, I need certification, I don't want to pay for it. But what
Mhm.
you need to decide what matters most for you. If you need knowledge, is out there, go read about it. If you need certification, well, spend some money on it.
Yeah, it's
So
all out there. You just got to find it.
absolutely. So talking about the ABO certification, you did learn on the job, and then you updated your knowledge with the certification. How was that process? Easy, difficult, helpful?
In the office that I worked at the time, I felt like it was a very well-rounded practice, and that we saw a lot of things that was going to be on the test. Like a slab off bifocal, like I physically had them in my hand and could look at them, where some people would never see them in their career. So learning the concept may be more difficult.
Mhm.
But I also had management and doctors who were very experienced and very medical. And so anytime I had a question about whether it was anatomy or, function of something or anything refractive, they had the answer. They knew it. I mean, I had good trainers and good mentors, where sometimes in a practice you may not have that. You may not have a mentor at all. So that's
Mhm.
when you, like you said, you should go to the internet, use your resources. There's a lot of forums and groups and
Right,
those sort of things that people are happy to help you with.
right, absolutely. And I think that's very important. And did certification change something in terms of perception and your confidence?
I think the ABO does a very good job at telling you why you should become certified, in that there's much more value in it. You can prove that you have the knowledge, you can display it. They provide resources for you that you can show it off, per se. Um, but it's sort of like a minimum level of competency that any optician should have. So I
Mm-hmm.
think if you are practicing as an optician, I mean, technically you're not supposed to say you're an optician. If you aren't, you are a frame stylist
Right.
or some
Yes.
other title. Um, but if you're going to be, filling the role of an optician or optician like duties, you should have a minimum level of competency and industry language and concepts to understand to do that role. It's not something that you can just jump into and be like, oh, okay, I think I got it. Because even though I took the test and am certified, it was years of on the job work and seeing things and learning things. And, you can't just read in a book how to do an adjustment or
Right.
that sort of thing. That's like hands on. So a lot of the state licensing boards, there's a test and a practical, which encompasses both things.
Okay.
So even if you're going to practice at all, I would say at minimum go to get your ABO certification. And you'll be glad that you did. You'll be like, oh, I remember this. This part is important and it applies to these other things. It all ties together. And for example, me being a technician helped me to be a better optician.
Right.
And me being a front desk person helped me to be a better optician for many different reasons. So pick up any knowledge that you can along the way.
That's awesome, and I think I totally agree. Any certification definitely helps you better understand and start that thinking process that is required when you're actually on the job. Some tips
Mm-hmm.
and tricks that you might have read maybe months ago would just come in handy when you're actually on the job.
Yeah.
So talking about, I know we did discuss about this offline, is, sometimes people feel like being an optician or doing that same thing can get boring, but you did mention it is important to choose the right practice because from my personal
Mm-hmm.
experience, I did work in an optician role, and I actually felt, oh, this is not for me, right? But as you rightly mentioned, that it could be just a wrong experience or wrong selection. How would you guide someone on that point?
That's really important. I think that could make or break your opinion about your job, what you do each day. Because there are a lot of different types of practices. I prefer to work at practices that have a heavy medical patient base. I like, helping them with the post IOL lenses and how that's impacted their life. And, we've done corneal transplants and all of these different types gives you makes you a better optician. It really does. But sometimes people don't like that. Sometimes people want to just do the basics in glasses. They just want to, not do anything medical, and that's fine. But some offices are more medical. Some offices only do refractions and refer out any sort of medical, whether it be dry eye or glaucoma or anything at all. Some people just refer them all out, and that's totally fine. But if you're not comfortable with where you're at, the type of patient base that you're seeing, or the education that you may or may not be getting on the job, then there may be a different practice that might fit you better.
Yeah, I think that's very important. As you mentioned, right? If you have an option to use all that you have learned by having this wide variety of patients who are right there and you can help them, versus someone who like, I'm happy with just giving like single and progressive lenses which are out there
Mm-hmm.
in the market. I'm just happy. I don't want any complexities in my life or in my work. Then that's one route. But if you want to bring or add more value to the practice, challenge yourself, update your knowledge, and try to go in a practice where you can make decisions and see the impact of it in a big
Most
way.
definitely.
Yeah. Now we're going to dive deep into Optician Now. So before we talk about it, I also want to know, what do you have a story behind the name Optician Now?
So my background's in computers, so I'm super nerdy. Um, I literally chose the name because whatever I wanted, opticiansomething.com was taken, and GoDaddy suggested these 5 names, and that's the one that I liked the best.
So okay, it was
Because the domain name is really important. It can't be too long. It can't be misspelled. It can't be all these things. And so
yeah.
I was like, out of process of elimination, that one's too long. This one could be misspelled. This one has a hyphen, all of those sorts of things. So thanks, GoDaddy.
Okay, that's all. That's awesome. Actually, like if someone wants to start something and looking for suggestions, have some random names or ideas in your mind, and GoDaddy might just help you pick one.
Yeah, I knew one word and that's all that mattered. So we got help on the rest.
That's wonderful. So tell us how about Optician Now started. I know it was with a passion to help people and to share your knowledge, but it's a lot of work. For those who haven't visited it, I'll be dropping the link in the description. But follow her for sure. So tell me, how did Optician Now started?
Well, before I did Optician Now, when I was doing web stuff for my job, I hosted a live stream video podcast and where I interviewed small business owners and had small business articles, and that was my blog. So in essence, I took that same format and just spun it to optician work because that platform worked very well for me and I was very comfortable with it. So I literally just turned it into optician, and entrepreneurs live and breathe small business, anything that they can, and that's sort of how opticians are. And some of my most popular posts, things that I've shared online, are just related to everyday stuff, like the tools that I used or the frame sanitizer, just basic things that apply to everybody every day. And so I spun it to optician work and thought about, I kept seeing things on forums and groups online that were the same questions asked over and over and over again. Nobody searched for the answer, they just re-asked the question. And I'm like, okay, maybe if there was a place that they could go to where they knew the answer would be for all these questions that are asked over and over and over every single week, that's something that people would go to. And specifically like study material for becoming certified or licensed.
Right.
So that was one of the things that I started with, and that's my most visited page, is the resource list for studying for your exam. And it was a lot of work to put it all together because I try to remain true to myself, and that it needs to be valuable. It needs to be something that I would use anyway. I wouldn't recommend something that isn't actually helpful to somebody,
Right.
or something that's just a sold book on Amazon that has terrible reviews.
Right.
So I really did put a lot of thought into it. And then that sort of slowly grew into, now we have ABO, we're going to add NCLE. Well, how about the front desk person? Maybe just general optical industry. What about CEs? All these sort of things kind of added on and added on. And then I added articles and social media. And so I try to include everything that one could need for any point, but it's always evolving.
Yes. When did you start Optician Now?
Oh my gosh. I want to say 2018, but I'm not positive. I think so.
Okay. But that's a wonderful spin, because I feel everything is, yes, out there. Because when I gave my opticianry, the ABO certification thing, it was like random articles, as you mentioned, that I had to read and study about. But I did have my optometry background from India, so it was a lot more easier for me because I knew the concepts and basics. But just while
Right.
I was preparing, I'm like, oh, there isn't any single forum. And now when you say, yeah, that is the reason I created it, I can totally relate to how I can just go to Optician Now and read everything, find everything, all the resources that will help me start. But of course, everybody have to do their little bit of homework as well. You still have to read.
Yeah, and everybody learns differently too. So I sorted it by books, printable PDFs, apps, videos. So you can kind of find what way you learn best, because how I learn may not be how you learn.
Right.
So everybody's different, and you might have, this week I feel like doing this, but you learn different from the video guy. So now I got to understand this concept a little deeper. So I'm going to, watch the video instead of read about it.
Right, right. And I think that's very important because, yes, sometimes I feel I like to see things. I learn better when I'm seeing a video versus I'm reading an article. So yes, I think that's a wonderful resource. And sometimes we do have PDFs which you can print out, try, practice, say just for like 3D measurements. So before you give it out to patients, if you want to test it yourself, it would be a nice tool to print, practice, and then, share and talk about it. So I think that's wonderful. And talking about social media, did you have any what were your pros and cons in terms of your social media journey? If any cons, but I know there are a lot of pros when you're out.
I really took to Instagram. It was very intimidating in the beginning because I had never been on it. I didn't know. I had to Google a lot of things. But other networks I'll just be honest, specifically Facebook can get very catty in groups, and I don't like that, and it's not productive in any way. I
Mm-hmm.
really also like LinkedIn because it's always professional. I've never
Yeah.
seen anybody be negative on LinkedIn, because we're trying to help people. We're not trying to
Right.
make them feel like garbage. We want to help everybody to get better and make the industry better.
Right.
Um, the most important thing I think in any social media is to find a schedule that you can be consistent in, whatever that may be. If it is only once a week, do once a week. If 4 times a week is too much, then go to 3 times a week. Just whatever you can do that is consistent, that you can do on a regular basis every single week, stick to that. Because when you go to someone's profile and you're like, oh, they haven't posted in 4 months, it's kind of a bummer.
Yes.
You're like, oh, I really wanted to follow them, but they're not active. So
Yes.
just try to be regular, whatever it is. Everyone will be different. And you might find that you get different projects at a time, and you can do this now, but you can't do that later. And just stick to something consistent.
Wonderful. And I have to say, from my own experience, and I'm sure looking at your Instagram and even on your website, it is a lot of work. So if you're saying, oh yeah, I can do it once a week, it's not a big thing. If you want to like really put genuine content out there, it is work. And if it doesn't feel like what
Mhm.
you're doing, you're doing something wrong. It should feel like work.
Yeah. And you have to look at what works and what doesn't work. If you
Yes.
get no likes, that's not the type of post that maybe should be posted. But if you look
Right.
at your analytics and some things like, oh wow, this one got a lot of comments and blah 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 blah, but you have to look at those things. A lot of people are scared of numbers because it's actual truth, so they
Yes.
avoid it. But that's what's going to make you improve. So look at your
Right.
numbers, see
Right.
what works, what doesn't work. If nothing works, then look it up. Spend some time researching it to see how you can improve it, because you should see some results on some platform in some way. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you have nothing, maybe it's the wrong platform. Maybe
Right.
you switch to this one or switch to that one. But if you're doing it for a practice, then find out what platform your patients are on or would find you on locally. Your
Right.
patients aren't going to find you on LinkedIn,
Right. Yes.
that sort of thing. If you're an optician and you just are a blogger like myself, it's kind of different. Like there are some that do great success on TikTok. They're not
Mhm.
marketing to patients, though. They're marketing to opticians. So it really does depend on who you're trying to get.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. And I think that makes so much sense that choose the right platform. And usually there are so many platforms out there which will give you
Mhm.
basic analytics. So even if you don't know, if you don't understand, you would at least understand likes, views, clicks. Those are the
Right.
simple stuff
Yes.
which I think everybody is like clear and even obsessed with it at some point, like, why did I get so many likes? And don't get disheartened or get too excited at the same time.
It's hard. I mean, growing my following, I was like, I got 8 likes. This the most ever, and I'm so excited. And then it slowly builds and slowly builds. And that's why consistency is key, because that's where you get to your end numbers, is
Mhm.
by being consistent, not by being sporadic or random. It has to be a pattern, and that's what makes it grow.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And I think with that, we did talk a lot about opticianry, but we would like to know a little bit about yourself. So I'm going to now dive into a fun segment, which is the rapid fire, right? So the rule is simple. I'll be throwing random questions to know you better. And whatever is the first answer that comes to your mind, you need to say that. So it's just fun to know you better. So are you ready?
Yeah, I'm kind of scared though.
Trust me, it's going to be fun. What's your favorite destination?
Home.
Home? Oh,
I
okay.
love home. That's really lame, but I am comfortable in home. I like the people in my home.
Oh, that's good to know. What do you do apart from opticianry, social media? What's your hobby?
Opticianry, social media.
And
I, whenever I have a couple spare minutes, that's what I'm doing. I'll do this for 4 minutes and this for 6 minutes and chip away and chip away and chip away. And that's sort of what I do. It's always, there's something on the back burner all of the time, but it's always related to this.
Oh,
Really.
really? Ah, that truly shows your passion. The way I started the episode actually relates to what you do, right? Like that's all what
I'm
I think
I'm
about.
lame. I mean, what do I got? This is what I got. I mean, I have little things that I do here and there, but I'm always chipping away at this in some way.
Oh, so that actually puts you into my true nerdy family for sure. That's what I when I keep doing it. All right, let's talk about food. Which is your favorite cuisine?
I've been into Mexican lately. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the simplicity, but it's so good for being so simple.
Yes, too many flavors. Too many flavors. Uh, love it. Your favorite book?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask this. And so I started to think about it because you asked Dr. Nguyen. And then I was looking at my bookshelf and I was like, oh my gosh, which one should I pick? Um, I really liked, I think it was called Small Great Things.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what it called. But I also really liked When Breath Becomes Air. Um, these are hard books and very hard for people to read that, aren't, that are emotional.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the hard life books that give you the lessons.
Wonderful.
I'm not a sci-fi or a person who thinks and imagines. I'm a nonfiction person, 100%.
Yeah, you want to know what's out there. Don't ask me to imagine
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep. I'm a fact person, 100%.
Wonderful. Now, if you had to interview, I know you've already done that, but now if you had a chance to interview any famous celebrity, who would that be?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard one. Oh, I don't know. Without giving a specific name, because I don't know, it would probably be someone historically important, but way older, like George Washington, or we were just talking about this at work, how the beginning founding fathers sacrificed so much of their own personal freedoms to give to the people
Mm-hmm.
so that other people could live better. And I greatly value that because people are really selfish these days. And so I think I would say someone really old school that was important, like George Washington is just a name I threw out there, but somebody really old that had a historical significance in that way.
Wonderful. And if we were to write an autobiography about your journey, what would you like the title to be?
The most common word to describe myself is random, because I throw the weirdest stuff out there at the most random time. So it'd be like something with the word random in it, because the things that come out of my mouth when you're thinking that's not what it is.
Wonderful. And if you were to change or add anything in the opticianry curriculum or the ABO process, what would that
I know the process for how they do things, and I think it should be more current. Some of the things are a bit dated, but
be?
that's because the resources that they have and the time that it takes and how long they need the test to last for. However, the values that are the core knowledge that are older, like slab offs again,
Yeah. It's
can't be
been,
forgotten. Like I
yes.
just did an executive bifocal. I just did a round bifocal. Those things people sometimes have never seen, yet it's a tool that you need to have. So as much as I say get more current, you can't get rid of the old stuff because it's so important.
Right.
So maybe actually I had someone email me today, maybe other things like ethics
Mhm.
or that sort of thing.
Right.
Dealing with crazy patients that are so rude during COVID, or dealing with elderly patients, maybe more just how to deal with patients, that sort of
Right.
thing too, because there's not a ton of that.
Right, absolutely. I think that's missing in general. Even I feel in optometry curriculum is what I hear a lot, that we don't talk about business, ethics, soft skills. Those are a couple of things that are missing because there's so much to learn in terms of clinical aspects and dispensing
Mhm.
aspect that there is not enough time at times. So you feel like,
Right.
yeah, adding something like this totally makes sense. So that's pretty much it. That was our rapid fire, not too crazy. And with that, I would like to just ask you one final question. For all my listeners, if you had to give a takeaway message, what would that be?
I would say everybody's future is up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So keep in mind that what you may be doing now may not be what you're doing in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. So always work on yourself in improving yourself with stepping stones and just considering things. You're not trapped. Be open to change, because in your future self will thank you.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. Like, keep yourself open to opportunities and change. And I think that's very important. So for all my listeners, I will be dropping the links of Optician Now. Definitely do visit and follow. If you're planning to do something like this in United States, if you are moved here, and if you want to learn a little more, I think this would be a very useful episode for anyone trying to explore the world of opticianry. So, with that, Carissa, thank you so much for your time. Fun fact, she's actually doing this video interview from her car, and I really appreciate she sacrificing her lunch break so that we can record this interview. Thank you so much once again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. I feel very good on your show because I feel like I'm a nerd, and I appreciate the opportunity to help more people. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.